Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the European LCS. Closing out the day here in Berlin is our next clash between Elements and Splyce. Both teams are coming off 0-2 weeks in Week 7 versus much stronger teams, it has to be said. Elements versus Vitality and G2, and Splyce versus UOL and OG. And what it is about in this matchup is that race for 7th place. Both teams have tough teams to face in the next couple of weeks, and we know that it's at 7th place. Vizicachi, you've been in this position with the Unicorns of Love where you're trying to get in playoffs, but you're not yet there yet. Can you explain to us how important it is then to beat the teams that are directly around you?
It's a really tough spot to be in because every match you go into is a lot of pressure because you are literally forced to win. And that's the case for Elements and Splyce right now. But for them, it's maybe a bit easier because the winner of this match will most likely be the one that's the 7th, I think.
Yeah, definitely, and it is very, very important. Steelback, what has been your impressions of Elements and Splyce and how they've progressed rather over the last couple of weeks?
I think at the beginning, Splyce were really scared to play on stage, but it seems like they're fixing this with the time. And I feel that Elements is a team that is improving a lot from scrims that we play against, and they're both willing to improve a lot, and I feel it's both teams that improved a lot. So it's interesting to see them playing against each other now.
Yeah, the players are ready, so one final thing about the matchup.
No, I'm just here.
All right, cool, awesome. Now the players are ready, so it's time to head inside and load onto the Rift.
Thank you very much, Shocks. As we get into the game, let's take a look at the two squads on stage.
I was totally ready for that. I was totally not eating half of my sandwich still. Jesus Christ, can we please get some more Diffusion insight? Because I love hearing from him, and I love finishing my sandwich.
Yep, he's still got food in his mouth. You shouldn't talk with food in your mouth. Didn't your parents teach you manners? Let's start on the blue side. It is Elements, of course, with Steve in the top lane, Gilius in the jungle, Ica in the mid lane, Mr. Oz and Sprattle, the duo, and of course their coach, Nif.
Yeah,
you good?
And for Splyce, no, I'm totally fine. I totally wasn't eating. We have Wonderware in the top lane, Trashy in the jungle. Mid is still Senkox as AD carry and support duo. We have Kobe and Nisbeth. And as always, we have the sweet and sultry base-infused Yamato cannon.
Yes, I hope he's wearing the tactical neck. I think, no tactical neck today.
Tactical neck?
Disappointed. Yes, tactical neck is a turtleneck that is worn for the tactical advantage it gives you.
But he looks like a little bit of a rapper, you know, all the hands.
Sterling told me that.
Oh, the camera's here. That's the camera.
Exactly.
He looks in, looks over. Yeah, he knows
so,
what he's doing.
The analyst desk was alluding to it. This is a difficult game for Elements of Splyce because of what it means after the split concludes. These are two teams that are fighting for that safe spot in 7th. Elements is 1-0 over Splyce, but both of them have really difficult strengths of schedules. Elements take on Fnatic, UOL, and H2K. Tough schedule. And Splyce, they take on H2K, G2 Esports, and Vitality. So this game is incredibly pivotal in that battle for 7th.
Yeah, probably the biggest game coming up here. So we'll see if they have adapted to 6.4 overall, if they're ready for it. And they are, because the initial ban here from Elements is Rammus.
Okay, as the reply is Nidalee from Splyce. No real surprises here. Maybe the Karma, although we have seen her a touch over in NA. She has been tweaked on this patch.
Karma ban.
Oh, you don't like the Karma ban?
I mean, now you have to win. If you're Splyce and you ban Karma and you lose, then you have issues.
So what is left up then? Kalista, Braum is banned. So Kalista's up, Alistar's up.
Corki's up as a power pick. There's obviously super high value now in that Alistar you mentioned, because 2 supports are out. You can play some Braum into it, Bard into it rather. Elements.
I mean, if Splyce don't pick Alistar now, their picks and bans is very confusing.
Yeah, they should. Maybe they have a different strategy. I like the Corkis. I think you need to put Aka on a simple champion with high pressure, because he just simply hasn't been performing well, and Senkox seemingly so far is a better player overall. So I think Corki is a fantastic early pick. It does mean, however, that your bot lane suddenly is under pressure because you have to play into Kalista, and Gragas is still open, so this is a really good reactionary rotation from Splyce.
Alright, so Kobe's going to get his hands onto one of the most important AD carries in the current meta. Only one game played this split, it was a loss. And for Elements, with all the target bans on support champions, Thresh or Alistar would be sort of the top tier. Maybe Trundle you could throw in there, despite the fact we saw him a lot as a top laner in IEM.
You have to just go Alistar here, otherwise you're playing into a Kalista Alistar lane for free.
A few seconds left, Crepo. This little long hovers from both of these teams. LeBlanc's still up for Senkux. His real standout performance was on something like that, and it's the Thresh, so... Oh, I can't wait to ask Splyce what they were thinking with picks and bans.
I mean,
the
composition is still, it's not bad, you know. You have just a snowball compositioning from Elements, which means they have to win lane, invade, get picks, use that hook and the cocoon for guaranteed crowd control, and maybe use that winning lane in the mid lane too for pressure. So they can, because obviously now Splyce is forced into Alistar, which is more passive in its approach, but has really good kill potential if the jungler shows up.
This just screams pick potential from Elements as well. Especially if they give that Corki to Ica and decide not to flex it to Mr. Ralls. Although Mr. Ralls' most played champion is Corki, so there is a very strong possibility of that being the case. How does Splyce retire? They have to do Alistar and then +1.
Alistar +1, and it's not going to be mid lane, so it's going to Alistar +1 top lane. Blind Fiora, maybe. Rammus no longer here. Maybe just Alistar Trundle, also an option.
Safe instead.
Wow, they actually go for the counter pick in top lane. That is unconventional here. Senkux playing with a defensive mid laner that scales. This is the complete opposite story that we've seen from Splyce early in the season, but it may be the adaptation, because if we look at gold distribution throughout the entire season, Wonderwear has been getting all of the gold but failing to use it. Maybe Splyce is finally realizing that they can't break the gameplay pattern, so they tailor their picks around it. Put a passive scaling mid laner on Senkux. I liked it when they did it with Lulu too, and they enabled Wonderwear to carry. He now gets the final counter pick.
It could be very, very good, especially when you consider Steve has a penchant for playing Fiora. With Quinn still up and available, there are some counter picks. But instead, we're going to most likely see this tank. A few seconds to go. Here we go. Poppy locked in, and the Lucian.
I like just super aggressive lanes. Elements are looking for something similar to Origin earlier today. 1-3-1, aggressive lanes, pickoffs, need to snowball. Splyce with a passive Orianna in the mid lane that's likely gonna get pushed in early. We have Kalista Alistar that can get pushed in. Ooh. If they actually lock in the gangplank, they're playing with fire, because if they don't get the lane swap, they will share a similar fate as Origin's opponent. They will get pushed in 1-3-1 the entire game. If Elements then plays to their win conditions, it is incredibly hard to get out of there.
Well, Splyce are going to have a few seconds left, 25 on the clock, before they decide on their last champ. Wonderwear has played a lot of champions. Fiora, Quinn, Tom, Nautilus, Lissandra. Like, both of these teams have actually struggled to find consistent, successful champions. And they're just throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks at times.
Yeah, at the halfway point of the split, Splyce was the team with the significantly largest amount of unique champions picked. Like 5 or 6 champions ahead of most other teams, so it was definitely an indication of them looking for their footing. It's risky, Splyce. You're playing with absolute fire here. If you don't get the lane swap, I want to see how this game plays out. Elements strategically isn't the most cohesive team overall. Late game, GP Orianna deals a tremendous amount of damage, but it's the same as that Origin game. Late game, they have the damage, but it also has to be in a team fight. Yeah. So Splyce need 2 things to happen. They need to get the late game and they get a team fight. Elements win the early game, and they can still combat that whole tactic by 1-3-1ing. And more importantly, we don't even see teleport here. Senkux, you need to change that into double TP if you want to play this style.
And especially when you consider all of the dash and mobility that Elements have, as well as the disengage from Poppy. There's a lot of challenges for Splyce to overcome. We'll find out how this early game plays out. There is no teleport for Senkux's Orianna.
Yeah, unless Trashy steps up and he finds one gank after the other. He breaks the early pressure and he annihilates maybe mid lane. But to gank a Corki is incredibly hard. Corki now playing with Exhaust in the mid lane too, so just need to find that one opening in the early game, otherwise things will get rough.
Well, early game importance for both Splyce and Elements. Elements looking to set up their lanes, get that 1-3-1, and we'll see if they can find the head-to-heads. Hashtag EL win if you think they will be picking up the head-to-head victory 2-0. Or if you think the scaling comp from Splyce and the Yamato Cannon-led squad will be victorious. Hashtag SPY win. Ladies and gentlemen, jump onto Twitter. You guys know exactly what to do, as does everybody here in Berlin, Germany with us. It is last game here, day 1 in week 8. And Crepo, we're loading onto the Rift.
We're loading onto the Rift. Sheer aggression brought to the table here. Both supports running a Ignite. No fancy exhaust shenanigans. No, we want blood.
Well, Doa would be proud, that is for sure.
Yes, he would.
And it's tough when you look at both of these squads because of the results earlier today. Origin and Fnatic, they've locked themselves into playoffs. So now Elements of Splyce are fighting for the safe spot. If we go on history, Elements are favored for number 7.
Okay, Elements were grouped, looking for a pick-off and a potential invade from Splyce. If they would have liked to go for the deep vision here in the lane swap.
And Cobby and Nisbet have already made their way up top with Wonderwear making it up to the tower. So in theory, they've snuck past the vision.
Yeah.
But Elements may have been able to sniff something out.
No, now it's a guessing game. It's like you don't know where the bot lane is because they could have ran top or bot lane. Right? That's why I don't like this invade. I think the hold is good for Elements, but the invade actually gives away too much information.
Minions have spawned.
It's a complete guess, but at least if Elements go bottom lane, they lose the camp. It's a bold move, but they seem to have analyzed, guessed, flipped the coin right. We will, or wrong rather, because we will get the lanes up here for Splyce.
So this is good for Splyce. Not terrible for Elements, but now we get to judge both of these squads' lane swaps.
They're slow, behind in the tempo. Nisbeth's going to walk in, he's going to find the junglers. Copy will then return to lane. Jungler starts on the right side for both of these teams to play lane swap. Ooh, look at Steve, he's pathing back to the lane, and Gilius got level 2. So a little bit surprised here, Elements.
Alright, let's see how Gilius responds. Steve instantly recalling in. The ward, I believe, just timed out as Wonderwear and Trashy were about to walk over it.
Yeah, but the double jungle is now faster on the side of Splyce. More camps taken, which means your top laner peels up quicker, and you can actually get the tempo lead. And it's a story. People are tired of hearing it, but just getting a couple extra seconds early in that lane swap will accelerate it. So, in addition to how crucial this lane swap is for these compositions.
Well, we have to then step back, I feel. And actually look at both Elements and Splyce, two teams who have not necessarily shown the greatest proficiency for the early game and lane swaps. I distinctly remember a too much dynamic queue discussion at one point.
Yeah.
So now we get to see in the time off and watching more games, have teams begun to grasp how to use the tempo.
There is so much information online available, vault of every single counterplay to every single part of this lane swap. It has been completely figured out, and Splyce here with that lineup, look at the amount of damage their abilities are doing to the creeps, while their actual auto attacks are going to on the tower. And only just now is Elements arriving at this bottom lane, so they've guessed the lane swap wrong, they don't get a camp on bottom lane, and they're half a tower down. Obviously have a slightly bigger wave, but the tempo advantage on the side of Splyce.
Alright, so pressure on Splyce to make the next move. Gilius is invading on the right quadrant of the jungle. You can see that Trashy's already done the same and placed a ward behind.
Yeah, if for some reason you are unfamiliar with this whole lane swap process, there's going to be a wave bounce towards Gangplank. Wonderwear is going to farm. He has a ward available in his lane that was placed by the support that will last a minute. The second he sees the enemy bot lane approach him, he will then initiate the push and base. Now, Elements' bot lane is going to path in to put pressure on the new tier 1 tower that's available and push off Steve off this freeze. The result is obviously that Steve is desperate for farm. He's on 2 CS, while Gangplank is farming up the storm in complete safety. So that's the goal. The tempo lead manifests into your top laners getting ahead, and in some of these very snowballing matchups, that's exactly what you want to get.
So important for a Gangplank. Needs to get truthfully to 2 items before he's completely online.
See that? He sees Lucian coming, he's like, okay, pop goes the wave. I no longer get punished by breaking my freeze. And the enemy dual lane is already bottom, setting up that massive wave to crash into the tower. Wonderwear is now 11 CS ahead and experience of Steve.
Alright, so some kudos to Splyce. They've got steps 1, maybe step 2 under their belt. Now is when things become tricky, because now you have to adapt to what your opponents are doing, and you can see in the mid lane, Gilius is setting up, got some good vision, and there's a possibility of a dive, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, the thing right now is, as well, because this lane swap is so tailored and so obvious, these passive matchups can go even on CS. Corki can't destroy an Orianna. Corki can get the pressure on the Orianna, then snowball that, but there's nothing to snowball on, because everybody's on the map doing the exact same thing, pushing towers.
Alright, Splyce will be able to secure tower number 2 a little bit ahead of Elements, but Elements have pulled more members to the tower, so that'll make up some time.
So there is a variation of play where you push off for tier 2, but I think the smartest play right here still is to bounce this wave for Wonderwear, then have Splyce rotate to the top, pick up the Herald, and then go for a long lane push here. Just get that Gangplank as far ahead in farm as you can. And they make, again, the right choice. So Yamato's macro game, how he wants to play the game, is finally rubbing off on the Splyce boys and Elements. They're just like getting this Rift Tower, but I don't think they will be able to use it.
We'll have to see how the next steps advance. So Elements pick up the Herald, Splyce will secure the Dragon shortly. Decent vision in the bottom quadrant for Splyce. That will give Wonderwear some additional time. He's already spotted Mr. Resolution coming out. And take a quick glance at the CS. Wonderwear is plus 10, plus an additional level, and there's some farm coming to him, but Steve has finally got his hands on a wave up top, so he's also going to begin clawing back that deficit.
All right, so interesting choice here. We're gonna see Wonderwear being sent up because he can't farm 2v1 as well, and they don't want to let him die, so he's going back to the top lane. Bot lanes will match up. Finally, we will get any semblance of a laning phase, but we've had security in the early game already for yet again. We have to repeat that. This is a late game scaling composition here. Now, Fog of War is dangerous. Ward your brushes. Gilius gets spotted. Might be collapsed upon actually. Crash is waiting.
Potential headbutt pulverize. I think that's going to have to be the combo. Gilius has already been caught by the body slam, but Trashy's got no mana left. Gilius continues to run away. Wow, that was a lot of damage from Red. Instant exhaust onto Cobby. The Flay pulls him back, but Cobby has already used a flash, and first blood to Sparkle. That's not how I thought that was going to play out.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, golf claps all around from the audience because bit off more than he can chew, I believe is the, I don't know what it is. The saying? Thank you.
English? Should we start casting in South-Afrikaans? I mean, my Dutch is close to it.
I really hope not. I really hope not. No. My Afrikaans is very lacking, my friend. Kan nie Afrikaans praat hier. Luister? Right, that's all I'm going to give you. So,
I understood you.
And well, barely.
But yeah, but that's not due to your Afrikaans.
Yeah, okay.
That's a different problem. But yeah, overall here, I actually talk about the game once in a while. Elements gained a lot of momentum again that they had previously lost. Splyce, a little overstep. They did a good thing chunking out the jungler. They overstepped their bounds a little bit. Elements, again, they have plenty of times to get back into the game. Just like with Origin, when they played a similar composition, they have room for failure. Because they have the bigger spike in the mid game, because they have the side lane pushes, and because they have a 1-3-1 that they can still execute. How well have Elements watched that though?
Well, we will find out. Elements have got a 3-man stack in this mid lane. Gilius putting a good set of vision on the top half of the map that will enable both Ika and Steve to play around the respective halves of the map. And for Elements, can be happy enough just farming away. But I think some props to Wonderwear. He continues to stay ahead in CS, plus 20, and has been since the beginning of the game.
Generally hasn't met an opponent yet.
Of course, of course.
No, but it's
kudos to Splyce,
this
right?
is kudos to Splyce. Exactly.
Yeah,
Not only do they find the lane swap, they react accordingly to Elements' invade. They then play the lane swap beautifully in every single step of the decision, and that manifests eventually in like a 30 CS lead. Now we see Ika pick up the package. Splyce is ready. They have defensive wards. They are wary. Look at the respect Wonderwear is giving. He's letting his opponent farm because he knows he's under pressure. And
but
we'll call for desperate.
Don't challenge for red. Don't challenge for red.
Don't do it.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it. Wonderwear step forward and a big package is delivered. The barrels are chained and red buff, I think, was secured by Gilius. Wonderwear burns his flash to get away.
I mean, yeah. You get the red buff here. So a little overstep, a little greedy. You want to just tilt his opponents.
Greed is not good, my friends.
Doesn't get you extra gold here.
No, not today. 10 minutes on the clock and even gold. All of a sudden, once the scripted nature of the lane swap is played out, Splyce's play is a little on edge, a little over-eager maybe.
That's the pressure just overall from this Elements lineup. They can force you into making mistakes here, but
I mean, Trashy
upon the picky.
Well, Gilius jumps out. And what goes up must come down. Very good cocoon onto Nisbet, and there's support from Elements. Flash over the wall as Nisbet
teleport coming in
to keep his beef secure. The flay is used. Fate's call. A flash from Trashy. The explosive cast can still be used, and Trashy's going to hold on to the cooldown. It actually was available, just opted not to use it. Mr. All's now going to look for more. Cobby is going to get pinned against the wall, and Splyce give up 2 kills.
Yeah, and where is Wonderwear's teleport? Where is, at least to scare them off and then cancel it, where is his cannon barrage to slow these guys down? Splyce, they go for an aggressive pick-off against the pick competition. That is, you have to nail that execution, and you know you will not be able to burst the Elise. Gilius, as he repels up, Pulverize is missed on the floor. Watch this again. So they get Gilius, Barrel misses, Pulverize misses, he walks out. At this point, Splyce are absolutely screwed. We need to see a cannon barrage here to disengage. But now Teleport comes in, Aika goes in aggressively. Alistair gets pulled out, but at that point, they're completely on the back foot. This is not the style they want to play. They're playing an aggressive early game with almost the most late game scaling composition. Crucial mistake from Splyce, but Elements. Look at all these aggressive flashes. They're really punishing Splyce where they need to. This is something previously they may have hesitated on. We saw 3 or 4 aggressive flashes here. So Elements are understanding the point of the game and getting some kills.
Exhaust is down on Nisbet, Shockwave thrown onto Aika, an aggressive belt forward, and a gentle love tap from Trashy. The cannon barrage comes down, and Wonderware gets a kill. First one for Splyce. Trashy actually helping Aika out. So there you go, buddy. This is what Nisbet gets for wandering into the river alone.
Hey, Aika does drop down here to Wonderware. That's big, because now he's accelerated to the Triforce. He will be able to start putting pressure on the side lane earlier against this Poppy, but still.
Especially because he's down in CS as well, technically. So that kill and assist actually going to put him marginally ahead. Enough gold for a ward.
Ward?
Well, they save lives.
Yeah.
Win games.
Because you can ward and then you can see the enemy coming in the jungle and choose not to fight them. And Nisbeth, I don't know what he's doing in the river here. Begs the question here. Spato's favorite food is not fillet of fish, it's fillet de cow. And Cooks gets knocked forward. This turnaround here, the Aika is like, I got him, guys, I got him. Oh, no, globals.
Ilias has been very on point with those cocoons this game. 3 or 4 that's found targets in high pressure situations, and while we were in the replay, Elements who the Doom's Eve second time this game. I think it was picked up by Gilius. Yes, it was.
Yeah, so he's roaming with additional movement speed here in the jungle. Elements still complete control of the game, and I just want to I know I tunnel on this concept, but if this was standard lanes, Splyce would have been in this position from minute 1, and they would have had so much pressure on them. So many games today, we've seen compositions that stand or fall by a lane swap. Either they get entirely annihilated, or they just needed to survive, and it's such a risky drafting approach that can just cost you so many games.
Let's see if it costs Splyce. They're down 1,000 gold. Elements will have no problems securing their first dragon. 2 relatively early dragons, actually. 13 minutes in and 1 apiece for both teams. But look at Wonderware. He's managed to shove that wave in to the inner tower up top, and the rest of Splyce are applying pressure middle and rotating.
Yeah, they're grouped. Again, this is exactly what we saw against Origin. Elements, 1-3-1, split push, Splyce, team fight. They want to push in one wave, create an objective for momentum, and then be able to rotate on the tower so they can at least trade. They want to fight in higher numbers here. Oriana Gangplank, extremely strong team fights.
Let's see if the ball delivery system of Alistar or Gragas can be used.
Cowball. We need some more Cowball.
Cowabunga ball for Splyce to win a wombo combo team fight. The potential is there. 2, 3-man knockup, Shockwave, Cannon Barrage, and that's it. That's a lot of squishy targets on the side of Elements. I mean, Runic echoes Elise. Yeah, you've got Poppy, but that's
the entire reason why Elements don't want to team fight.
Yeah.
They don't want to run into that scenario. If the ball delivery system works, it can maybe work on 2 people, while Elements are cross-mapping, you know, chipping away towers, vision. They can control the map.
Team fight to win. Let's see if Splyce can set it up. I'm still relatively impressed with Element's vision. I feel like every time I look down on the map, there's at least 1 or 2 wards inside Splyce's jungle. Defensive pink ward in the try up top, some blue buff vision down bottom. It's not deep, but it's some information to work with.
As for Splyce here, defensive pink ward just hanging on here. We see another package. These are the really tricky moments here for Splyce, where all the pressure can make the wall collapse. The Coon goes wide.
Play does not. Death sentence available. Catches onto Senkax. Delivery from Aika and kill secured.
But hey, at least he's playing Ignite, so he doesn't have to worry whether he cleanses the hook or the cocoon or any other spell coming his way. He can just ignite the enemy and die. Isn't that fantastic, Trevor?
It certainly is. Senkax 0, 1, and 1. Spratle and Gilius looking to apply pressure behind, and a 5-man stack from Elements.
And look, when he spawns in 14 seconds, he doesn't have to wonder, do I teleport back in? No! All you gotta worry about is just burning your opponent. Just like this tower is being burned down here in the siege from Elements. Find a pick, get on the objectives, rinse and repeat. 1-3-1 to open up the map again.
Well, very well played from Elements as the mid-game is rolling out. Twice now the package is available, and twice that we've was used for at least a kill. That time a kill into tower. So heads up play. And that's what matters. I mean, Elements have got the tower lead. So despite all of that early game advantage Wonderware's built up, he's 500 gold up. Trinity Force just completed. So that's a big activation point.
Yeah, that's
And
no spike
Ica
already.
is the same.
Yeah, Ica sitting on probably the biggest power spike here for Coach Triforce for his auto-attack trades. And then obviously the Magic Pen boots here just to enable that poke. Chip away, force Senkux on the back foot. And this is what you see. Splyce are waiting for the waves to arrive. They can't actually aggressively push out. Then Elements layer in between those lanes. They litter the enemy jungle with some vision. Wards everywhere. They're complete control, complete information. Then the only variable is their decision making, which has been a pretty large variable for Elements this season.
Yeah.
But they seem to have a decent understanding of how to close out here, how to accelerate their lead.
Yeah, definitely confident in proactive play. Once they got a couple of opportunities presented. Gilius once again moving in to clear out wards. Look at this. Destroying another pink, placing a pink of his own. Pushing the vision, setting up for this inner top turret.
Yeah, because waves give you vision too. Whenever you push in, they're defending. You now have 20 seconds to do something on the map. And obviously that gives you time to get the deep vision. And then you can reveal one of your opponent. Then you want to collapse. You want to spread the net open and then get it stuck, you know, around one guy here in the jungle. That's a complete waste of a barrel for Kanchi, but he's left with very few opportunities here.
Senkux gets jumped on. Steve runs him down, throws out the buckler.
I was watching that on my screen. The way that started was Senkux gets into a trade with Aka. Aka just exhausts. Senkux no longer has the damage. Ignite was on cooldown, and then obviously Steve pushed in the bottom lane. He came in right now. We saw Wonderware still have Cannon Barrage on cooldown. No teleport into help either because he was stuck in the bottom lane. So Elements, they push out the lanes. Then while Splyce is dealing with the lanes, they get a numbers advantage anywhere. In the jungle, in the mid lane to make a pick.
Make that pick count. There's no towers available just yet, but all the vision is set up for either another Herald or potentially a tower push. Rawls is picking a fight with Kobe, has the support of Sprottle. Predicted the flash, wasn't quite able to get the distance.
Yeah, the hop. Didn't think of the flash. Either way, just almost there. Going flash for flash on the Kalista is still worth it though. You have to go for that play and then pray that you get the highlight montage. If not, you still burn your opposing AD carry's flash. And that's what you're doing. Pick comp, you know, get rid of their summoners. And look again, Elements 1-3-1. Push all the lanes. When somebody's dealing with it, we can now see Steve peel off into the mid lane. We can see Elements slowly but surely taking these objectives because they always know exactly where Splyce is. And that's the danger of their composition.
Nif's Lasagnas helping Elements find their footing. 6-1 up, 3,000 gold. I think it was the third Herald as well.
No abundance of cheese though in Lasagna. Just
No.
clean, well played.
I think Vitality are lactose intolerant.
Can deal with the cheese.
Apparently not. But it's interesting seeing all the Rift Heralds because during IEM, I think it was... Oh, I can't remember where I read it, but I read somebody talking about how EU teams are a bit more infatuated with Rift Herald. I think it was Kelsey Moses saying it, actually.
Yeah.
And it just sort of got me thinking about it a little bit more because I somewhat disregard the Herald at times.
It's
and we're
because
seeing it now become integral.
We couldn't really see any value from it. It's like, okay, it gives you a buff to minions that then die into the tower. But in a lane swap scenario where EU teams were so far ahead of the curve already, they kind of incorporated that into like phase 3. So tier 1 towers trade, massive wave push that then gets accelerated with a Herald buff. You could sacrifice a dragon for that, but you still get the quicker tier 2 tower. Again, tempo means advantage, means time 1, which means pressure, which means eventually you get ahead. That's kind of the way you want to play it, and Rift Herald suits that beautifully. That's why we see increasingly more priority on that Herald being used for well-timed pushes with big waves.
Yeah, Cannon Barrage was used by Wonderway down bottom. He defended the bottom inner turret, but Elements just say, peace out, bro. And they just go knock over the mid inner. So 4 towers down.
Yep.
Very, very good mid game. Dragon number 2's available. This is going to help them in that 1-3-1. And look at all the vision to do this safely.
Yeah, Elements always have control of all the information here. So the only variable, like just we said earlier, is their decision making. And so far, they get the Herald, the tower. They get the Dragon with 2 people, peel off 2 more. They're looking for potential teleport in if Steve needs to help. But again, this is the execution phase. Now they go back to build up. Thin out. Splyce will be forced to spread out their resources too. They're playing a team fight composition. We said it earlier.
And look
They
at this.
just can't afford to split up.
Bottom turret. Splyce try to defend middle, arrive late, lose that, lose Dragon, try to clear their own jungle, and now Elements just punish.
It just hurts to see this because it's how we lost so many games in Season 3. He was like, why aren't these guys team fighting us? We have such a good team fight combination. Like, yeah, maybe they should, you know? Have you heard about split push? Splyce clearly have not all their eggs in a team fight late game basket, but they forget that there's the first 20 to 30 minutes to be played.
And the thing is, Splyce actually committed to this very early on, right? That Orianna was second rotation, and then closed it out with the Gangplank instead of maybe something that could have tried to challenge the Poppy, tried to handle the split push.
And Elements was ready for it early on too, because they had the option to pick Alistar, but they went for the Thresh, knowing that they just wanted to play more aggression, more picks. They didn't want to wait for the questionable late game shot calling. And yeah, props to them. They have improved in these 2 weeks.
Yep, definitely the case. And again, to remind everybody, these are the two teams that are currently tied in the battle for 7th place. Wonderwear not even going to chain the barrels together, unfortunately. I think Steve had just stepped out of range. And the turret is under pressure, and there's some vision in the jungle as well.
His goal was not Steve, though. He wanted to get those minions that were right behind Steve. Just make sure that they hang on. But again, it's a familiar sight. I don't think Splyce even remember what the river looks like. I don't think they've seen it. Like, I know this brush. I've been in this brush before. It's my safe space.
Well, Elements don't care. They'll knock over anything in their path. Take a look at this. Ica actually used the package already. It was picked up a little bit ago. May have timed. Wave pushing towards Elements down bottom. So somebody's going to go deal with that. And that top inner turret is the last one that remains.
They need to force the Gangplank ulti somewhere, and then they can attempt Baron baits here. Look at Splyce here too. One blue ticket goes down. They likely will need to change for a third one here, because every time, like every step they make, every move they make, every step they take, Elements is watching you with all the vision, waiting for you to step into your inevitable demise. Hook in the face, cocoon, anything.
Anything that gets them the kill. But Splyce, they have to step into it. Bottom lane, bottom
Well,
wave.
if they don't, they just lose Baron. You know,
There we go,
they don't have to step into it. They can also choose slow and merciless death by split push. You know.
Yeah. They omit to make a decision. Steve was sent to clear out the bottom wave and will try to put pressure on Wonderwear. Wonderwear's got the Essence Reaver second item. There's a little bit of debate around that. I remember some of our Australian friends, upside down all the time, think it was the best Gangplank build, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, right now it has to go up to 3 items before you really get the value from it. They changed the calculation on that a little while ago. A couple patches down.
And also interesting that we're seeing Wonderwear and GP even after the nerfs in 6-4.
Spicy though, invoking the right to the 5th Amendment. It's not doing anything.
Let's take a look. Trashy eats the Culling. Body slams away. Element's very committed to defending that pink ward, at least for now. But they've not pulled Steve in. Steve backed away from Wonderwear.
Yeah, they need
potentially the TP.
They need Steve to tank the Baron. Gilius can do it for a while with some Spellvamp, but Elements can't go for the sneaky 2 or 3 man Baron, I feel, because they'll get chunked really hard. As I say that, they are going for the sneaky 2 or 3 man Baron. But let's see how long they can do it. Was I right? I love it when I'm right. You shouldn't do it because you can't actually tank it. Right now they lose all the momentum. The build-up from the last 3 minutes is wasted because they can't predict that Baron does damage.
Whoever would have known. Not Elements. Steve is backed away, forced Wonderwear out. Is very, very relevant as that tank. Sunfire, Frozen Fist, Spectre's Cowl. A lot of vision still for Elements to play with, so if Splyce stick around in this river, something they've not seen for a while, they could get punished.
Or we may see Fate's Call having been used here this step, or at least an ulti to get out.
Well, there's nobody else to deal damage. Gilius did 30% Nisbet alone, and now has the support of Riles and Spratle. Alright, Baron Dance. Is there enough vision remaining for Elements to pull this off?
First step is always the minions, so you see that Elements ping the top wave. They identify step 1 again, so while we're almost like making fun of them for starting Baron, the entire setup was good though. You have to repeat that. They have been prioritizing minions when they should. They have not been opting into these teamfights from Splyce. That's good. They're going for a collapse here though, because Gangplank's in the bottom lane.
They certainly are. Steve comes in. I don't think he even had Home Guards. And the Fizzle.
Yeah, this is where it all kind of starts breaking down. A little bit of a random teleport from Steve into the mid lane. While now Wimbyware has TP advantage and the pressure in the bot lane. So while Rao has identified that, hey guys, we're 1v1, guess what? Let's split push. Steve and the remaining parts of Elements weren't on the same page. They do get a rotation to top lane with that zone, but I don't feel that's worth the teleport right now because Wonderware is happy with how that played out.
Yeah, especially because Steve wasn't able to even really assist his team for any potential fight. Tower chunked down to about, what, 15%. Infinity Edge picked up for ICAT in terms of itemization. Cobby on the Callista. Hurricane plus Blade of the Rune King. So he's fully activated.
Just did the math. It's actually close to 17% on that time.
Okay, no, you just go rub it in, right? Closer to 17%. Well,
Trevor's hitting the cap of Crepo per week. He did IEM.
there was a lot of Crepo.
There's a lot of Crepo.
It was good. It was good. Sometimes. Mithy had to balance it out, right? Mithy and Dexter had to come and balance things out. Dragon number 4 at 26 minutes, 2 apiece. 3 for Elements. I literally couldn't add 2 plus 1. I was looking at my...
I got you on the map here. Cocoon and his map. He'll be forced to get pulled out.
Didn't actually stack the Unbreakable Will, so good to see some communication between Cobby and Nisbet, but one Cocoon and the front line, or at least one of the front line for Splyce is now gone.
Yeah, so again, Vision leads into Poke. No answer for Splyce because they don't actually have the best hard engage. While they do have a lot of combination tools in these teamfights, Body Slam Flash is the only engage that is not incredibly telegraphed because Fate's Call can be flashed, Orianna ulti can be flashed, Wonderware's ulti is zoned, but it's really hard for Splyce to really find these teamfights, and as long as Elements respect that and don't opt into these fights, they're 1v1 despite having the lane swap upon them, despite making some mistakes, they're still in full control of this game. It is their game to lose.
We'll find out how they decide to play it out. We're approaching 30 minutes and...
I thought you were going to say, let's find out how...
No.
Now time to find out how they're going to lose it.
I'm not going that hardcore. But I know that some of the challenge teams will be watching this very closely. Copenhagen Wolves and Huma, their final next week.
Not a
We'll be
two-man
playing
Baron here.
some of these teams. Mr. Rawls and Gilius didn't learn from their first attempt.
The problem is, you can sneak a two-man Baron if you have like a lot of people in the mid lane, but because you're playing 1-3-1, if you're not showing in all 3 lanes, it's very easy math for Splyce to know you disappeared, and it takes you so long to finish that Baron that at least one member from Splyce can enter the jungle and go for the ward. So ideally, if we want to see that, we want to see both lanes pushed in, retreat to the Baron for the bait, then give Splyce the hesitation. Do we ward in slowly, face check, risk losing the Baron, or do we instantly face check but then risk getting caught out?
So that question will be answered soon because Steve will have his teleport available. So at least the support of their split pusher can get pulled in, something they didn't have for the 2 previous attempts. And Splyce care not for Elements because they've grouped up 4 men in the middle lane. Will take
Ross
that
to the top right now. He can't peel back to the fight. Elements going for the collapse when they can simply take top lane inhibitor. They want to force a fight.
And they have found traction. Cannon Barrage comes down, a 2-man knockup as Cobby and Nisbet are on the retreat. Unbreakable Will is available, as is the Fate's Call. Gilius ramps up into the wall. Fate's Call to pull backwards. Shockwave only jumps onto Steve as it was flashed away from the rest of Elements. That is Steve down. And instead of going for the safe play, Splyce are winning a team fight. It's what Splyce wanted. It's what their team comp was designed to do, and it's a 3-for-0.
And it's literally one guy in the cover who's like, woo, just Elements. Just through the game. Mental facepalm here. They had all the options to 1-3-1. Fantastic fight by Splyce. Don't get me wrong. Because people are like, Crepo, why are you whining again? It's just, it hurts me. I can't see it. It's just they recognize the play the entire game as they get the Baron right now on Splyce. Elements have recognized the one playstyle that got them ahead. The entire game, 1-3-1, split up, go for towers. Raw is right here, top lane's open. Elements do not have to fight this. Right here, they do not have to fight this. At this point, I repeat, they do not have to fight this, but Wonderware comes in. Keep your eyes on Senkirks. He holds his ultimate on Orianna long enough to get zoned. The barrels come in here. One guy flashes, but Steve gets caught out. He dies to lost away. Ignite arrow as well. Aka found into the team, I believe, or something happened. He got knocked in by Nisbev. Anyway,
I think it was actually.
Yeah, he ended up dying there, and then suddenly, guess what? Splyce are running a teamfight compensation. Maybe that's why they haven't fought you the entire game.
The observer showing that Gilius was squashed under the boot of Splyce. And after being 5,000 gold down, the game was in Element's hands. It was a choice that they opted into. Even with a 5k deficit, Splyce win the team fight, taking in a turret, and now on the cusp of equaling the turret's killed. Use that as TP.
Yeah, Turbo Poppy is ready. Again, does not mean that Splyce have won the game. Because Elements have answers. Because Wonderware is going to the bottom line. Right now, there has to be a ward somewhere. Let's see, where can Elements teleport to?
Baron Pits, Turbo Poppy's coming in, but he's got a long distance to cover.
Wonderware
available for Wonderware as well. The aggression comes forward, no pin onto Kobe. Cannon Barrage is out, Splyce off, peeling away. A lot of ultimates available as Elements are under the tower. Wonderware's hold his nerve and has not teleported in. Defensive hold for Elements.
Yeah, Turbo Poppy comes in from the flank, but then comes from the front anyways.
Runs out of gas.
Yo, Splyce, they stay calm, they don't overcommit in the chase because Wonderware at no point channeled his own teleport. They're now in a 1-4 split push with Baron buff themselves. And they're chipping away 1 tower, 2 towers. They're looking to get that Baron power play up to 6,000 here. 6,200 gold right now. Massive Baron power play.
Exceptionally good for Splyce. And you know, they've actually held their nerve on ultimates a lot. Now that's a weird thing to say, but it ended up paying off in that previous team fight that allowed them to win it.
They understand that they have a superior composition, and the only way they lose is if they majorly screw up their ultimate usage. Their patience was there. But the problem in League of Legends when it's as advanced as it is right now, and the execution of these strategies is just online for these coaches to learn. There have been so many examples of this exact stylistic mismatch being perfectly played by the 1v1 team. It is so risky to go for a teamfight composition. It is outdated almost.
Yeah.
It does work if the enemies actually teamfight you, which Elements did.
So Elements are now the ones that are 5,000 gold down. That gold graph has swung completely the opposite direction. And Splyce aimed their Baron power play with plus 6,000 gold difference, more than their opponents. That is a phenomenal turnaround. And now it's up to Splyce to demonstrate how they want to close the game out.
And when Origin earlier today was in a similar position, they had to scale and get their AD carry combination to a very large item point, and they had 4 or 5 items. But Mr. Rawls right now is stuck on 3 with a Bloodthirster in there too, so he's actually not doing that much damage.
Dragon number 4 would allow more tower dives, is secured by Element. Shockwave catches Ica, Exhaust comes out a tad late. Wonderware doesn't care, he's not teleported in. Fate's Fall's been used by Kobe to pull Nisbet out. They've traded a 4th Dragon for an inhib.
Wow, Splyce with the execution there. Really good kite and peeling 4v5 to not die there. That's actually impressive though.
They're getting more. Wonderware's played this one safe. They lost vision, I feel, of the Elements members. And
begs the question, could he have teleported in to straight up win that fight overall? Because if they can actually hold 4v5 by using those ultimates, chunking out, forcing some cooldowns, perhaps they could have turned it, but in the end, Splyce making calculated late game decisions here.
I'll talk about climbing the mountain of gold. The interesting thing that we're in now, Crepo, is despite this gold swing that you can see on the graph, despite the super minions up top, Elements are 1 dragon away from Aspect, which benefits their team comp. But in order to get Aspect, they have to potentially team fight.
Yes, but the way you go around that is exactly the entire way they've gone around it the game. You don't team fight them straight up. You push the lanes to force them back. Guess what? They're all pinned down in their individual lanes. Now that objective is opened up, you can liberate it, and then you can easily take it. That's how you deal with split push versus teamfight. That's why split push is stylistically in the early to mid game the counter to teamfight, because you have the stronger lane matchups. But we're adding late game right now, and these lane matchups are not as crisp and crystal clear anymore. Orianna late game deals tremendous amount of damage. Wonderware is accelerated in this game. He has Flame Horizon Steve. You know, technically in lane swaps that doesn't count.
Yeah. Still doing exceptionally well. Sterix completed as we have a brief pause.
This is like a timeout when the coach steps in. Hey guys, strategy call. If only. That would be a cool concept. Halfway through a game, calling the coach and hey, what should we do?
Panic. But I like the concept that you had of the Dragon Pit. In order for Elements to get Aspect of the Dragon, Dragon number 5, they need to liberate the objective.
You gotta go Khaleesi, free the dragons.
Well, it didn't work out too well for her. It's a great concept because it's something that Elements had the ability to do earlier in the game.
They have, the
and then
entire
they,
game.
instead of liberating the top inner turret, they elected into locking themselves into potentially a promotion tournament spot because of that, option or that decision to team fight.
And
a split-second call.
That's the thing with like scrims and lane swaps. The early game you can always play. Minute 1 to 5, okay, analyze. Scripted almost. The decision tree for lane swaps is out there. There
If
is
X, then Y.
Yeah, literally. You could code an ideal lane swap. But the later you go into the game, the more variables you have and the harder it becomes to really copy that playstyle. And you need to not carry on to these like absolute decisions, but it goes more about philosophies. Like, what do we do in certain stylistic situations? And that's when we talk to Prawley a lot, actually, from H2K. He's like, when I watch some play, I go talk to my players, and I make sure they figure out why they need to do something and why this happened. I don't care if you missed that CS, because that's up to you. You know that you need to get the CS. But you go holistically, you go
Philosophically.
Yeah, that word.
I got you.
You just talk about general strategies, and that's what Elements is lacking in the mid game, because they seem to have mapped out early to mid, but mid to late, they're still struggling.
And that's something that Prawley tries to imbue in H2K.
Yeah.
Is like, if a player doesn't understand, it's my fault. And if I explain it different, they still don't understand, it's my fault.
Yeah.
I've got to find a way to break through. Guys, there is a problem with regards to Senkax at the moment. Apparently it's because he can't move. I don't know if he knows he's been cocooned. We will find out as the guys are looking into it. But we've got a replay of that last Dragon fight where Wonderware elected to continue pushing top lane.
Yeah, so let's
talk me
see.
through what you're seeing here.
Is there any? So he could technically ward TP in to go for the 5v5 fight. It's hard to force it here. That hook goes wide. This here, the turn here with the ulti here. Trashy does get caught. He has to flash out, but Senkux steps forward as his team is on the defensive. And that's what I like to see. That means Splyce's team fighting is solid. Because if Senkux actually steps backwards there, Trashy could be sacrificed and engaged on. But he steps in when his teammates needs him to step forward for zone. He gets the aggressive ulti onto Aka, and then obviously the 4v5 plays out with Wonderware taking down that inhibitor. And right now they were in a split push. They're setting up again. So Splyce really understand these team fights.
Yeah.
It's just a big leap to take to get to that point.
Yeah, you can't run the risk. Survive 25 minutes with Gangplank Orianna, arguably maybe getting 2 items Kalista, then decide to play the game back. Now it's working somewhat against Elements, because Elements opted into that. They went for the fight, that old school way of thinking, so to speak. But for Elements, they're one dragon away from Aspect.
Yeah.
How important, I mean, will Aspect win the game for Elements? Is it that big?
I mean, you gotta look at what does Aspect give you? It gives you a burn in these fights, so it can help you in team fights only if the team fights go long, which they have. Like we see these decisive team fights where Splyce, why do they win? Because they hold their ultimates long enough. But we have champions like Lucian and Corki that can poke away. Steve doesn't really poke, but he survives long enough. Then all these additional bonuses from Aspect do carry in, because not only do you get the burn, all your initial bonuses get doubled too, so you have so much value from that 5th dragon that could actually lead to a teamfight win here for Elements, because the amount of stats it gives you will nullify the gold lead that Splyce currently hold.
Yeah, and the team compositional advantages in some way if those fights continue to play out. So you can see the QA, they are on stage. I've just reached out to Senkux, and I'll get you an update as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Itemization, nothing really super stands out except for the fact that Wonderware has just got so many toys to play with. Sterex, Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, Trinity Force. I mean, that is a terrifying gangplank. If he manages to connect any barrels at all, those very, very squishy members of Elements are just going to get, well, deleted.
Definitely, and we actually have the time now to look at some of these like crucial phases of the game. I believe we have the teleport ready too, where we can take a look at potential play that Splyce could make as the logo transition on the screen. So here, if you want to flank, you got to go up here, Steve. You got to go behind. So there is no point in flanking to only then knock on the front door. Just walk from base if you want to do that. So Steve completely screws up his flank here. He had the opportunity to go beyond the enemies, pop the W. That means Alistair can't actually combo you, because you will only combo you if you're in Q range, in pulverize range. That means Elements could have collapsed 4v5 here. So that was a potential game-turning play here that Elements neglected to see. And it goes back to what we were saying. Early game decision making, good. They understood their roles, but late game, they don't follow the same philosophy overall.
And also some credit again to Wonderware. The teleports that we have seen from him have been impactful. 2 or 3 times he's held his TP but secured objectives instead. I'm looking at my screen really quickly. Yeah, that inhibitor is still down. So thanks to that dragon replay we showed you a few minutes ago, it was enough to break open the base.
And AK is right now in base 2. You guys can't see this, but he's at the verge of picking a package. So we're in the middle of a bit of a standoff here in the jungle for people that forgot what it looked like. So if Splyce forget that package exists and they kind of commit to the team fight, we could see AK surprise, because in these small corridors, these choke points, package late game deals a tremendous amount of damage overall.
That's where Elements want to hold them. That's where Elements want to fight them. And that's where Elements want to try pick up 300 gold for every kill and stop them. But
Deep.
yeah, I was trying to channel my Leonidas. It didn't quite go the way I was hoping. But yeah, just
The
to
300 reference. Ah, it
Yeah,
all starts
exactly.
seeping in. It takes a little while here.
Yeah, I know. It's an old one. It's an old one. Golden oldie.
And sadly, there was never a sequel.
Yeah, that's actually true. That took
They
a
totally
second
did not
as
make
well.
a second
No, they
movie
definitely didn't.
of the 300 series. Sadly, it ended after one, right?
It really did. It really did. Update as well, guys. You can see the technicians on screen. They are busy working with a movement-related issue on Senkax's machine, and we will give you an update as soon as we get something from the QA guys. But yeah, Splyce versus Elements, both teams at 4 and 10. The winner of this game will hold sole position of 7th place. The interesting thing is, if Splyce close the game out, they are then 1-1 in head-to-head. So if there is a surprise or an upset from Elements, there's going to be a tiebreaker for 7th.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Love me some tiebreakers. It's incredibly hard to hear because our in-house audio is echoing and it's tilting my life right now. Because when you're saying it, everything I hear in double, so bear with me.
It's so nice, Crepo.
You know what?
You
I have a
have
solution
to hear
for
it
that.
twice.
Let's just go to the analyst desk. I think they can talk about it.
Oh no, we have to go to the analyst desk. That means something is still not fixed. We are finding out, and we'll get back into the game as soon as possible. However, we've just seen 20, 30 minutes worth of a game, and you wanted to talk a lot about lane swaps in this game specifically, even though what happened after is also quite interesting. What did you want to touch on?
So we don't want to talk about the lane swap that happened in this game specifically, but more if it was the correct decision for Splyce to lane swap or not. So we talked about it, you know, their composition, Kalista, Alistar, they had the Gangplank top lane. Do you guys think lane swapping here was the best decision, or was it better to take standard lanes to kind of slow down the game a little bit and get level 6 on Alistar and so on? Still back.
I think that since they had Alistar, since I play Kalista a lot, I feel that her laning phase is really strong. So you should probably abuse it by following the 2 versus 2. I think they lane swap because they wanted to follow, which I'm not sure, but I think the best thing is to follow, and since you have the Alistar and the GP ultimate, you can easily slow push the wave level 6 and make a dive on your opponent.
And do you think, Chachi, when we have these lane swaps now, because it used to be, you know, you lane swap to avoid a matchup, and sometimes you could also slow down the game a bit, you know, back in the days when people were freezing waves. Now it's very fast-paced because, you know, you take tier 1, go down to the other side, you take another tier 1, and then you push for tier 2. So it's very fast-paced. When you have these scaling compositions, do you think lane swapping is a good thing, or do you think it actually speeds up the game a little bit too much for these scaling comps?
It's a good way to skip the early game because you straight up jump into mid game, usually with lane swaps. But yeah, nowadays you do it to avoid certain matchups. But in the current meta, I feel like there are no super bad matchups, let's say for top lane. Everything is playable, and it a lot of the time comes down to the jungler matchup. Because here they have Elise versus Gragas, and I feel like maybe they wanted to swap in order to avoid the early pressure that Elise can create, and like invading the Gragas, putting some pressure on him. So I think maybe that was the main reason, because I feel like Alistar GP is so much dive potential for bot lane that it would be generally worth to keep the normal lanes. But if they are afraid of the jungle matchup, that's the only reason I see behind this swap.
After the early game, though, Elements got really far ahead, and you mentioned the Elise versus Gragas matchup, and we saw a lot from Splyce that they were invading really riskily in the middle of that game and getting caught out, which gave Elements a lot of kills. What does that say to you about the disconnect maybe between this is what we want to draft from Yamato and this is the way we want to play?
It's something I feel like we have seen before from Splyce, where they have all these fancy compositions in mind. So it looks very good on paper when they draft it, I think, for the team, but then in-game they kind of fail to execute the strategy. Do you guys think is that on the players? Is it on the coach maybe? Be like, you guys need to do this, and this in-game to make this comp work? Or is it more for the players in-game, the shot callers, to kind of make sure everyone understands early game, mid-game, late game for certain comps?
I would say it's more for the players, because there's a lot of adaptations that you need to do in-game. So even if the coach gives you a plan, you need to do this and this, it will definitely go differently in the game. And you will face a scenario where you will have to make the decision. And for example, here I think mid lane was pushed in for Elements, and Corki could run faster than the Orianna, and that's why the invade of Splyce failed and Elements got like 2 free kills. So it was a bad decision by Splyce here, but maybe they thought that invading here is good. They just didn't wait for mid lane to be optimal for them.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not easy to make those calls. We saw today in your game versus OG that you guys also had these very important decisions to make. How do you reflect on that game now? It was incredibly close, Steelback.
For this game, I think we had the game in our hand because I felt our draft was stronger. So we wanted to look to teamfight them. But we kind of misunderstood how to play the map because we had double TP, but we got pressured on side lanes. So I think that was the main thing. We couldn't pressure the map properly, so they just kept on pressuring us, and then we had a fight mid lane. I remember that we won, but then we went for the end. We wanted to end the game, but we couldn't.
Kind of the same for me. I felt like we kind of slowed down the game at one point because we needed to push out top lane, but none of us really did that job. So
On the players.
We just got pressured in all the time, and we couldn't do anything for like 20 minutes, and then we just overforced team fights, I felt like. But yeah, we could have won that game easily, I think.
I mean, you won the last team fight technically, I guess, before. You won the team fight pushed in, you know, the long death timers everyone talks about in the community. Your guys' point of view, are the death timers too long? Are the towers too weak? Like, what makes the game... Or what is it that people are complaining about? Is it a correct thing? Is it the fact that death timers are too long late game? Is that why we have some of these big team fights into an end?
I think the death timers maybe are a bit too long for late game. But in our case, it would have been better if it's a bit longer. We can actually finish.
I do hear that the players are ready, so we'll pick this conversation back up after the game because that's what we want to see, of course. So back over to our casters and the game.
Thank you very much, guys. It's always great hearing from players on the desk. As an update to the situation, there was a network-related issue that didn't allow Senkux to actually move or dodge the cocoon. He was caught out after speaking to the teams. Elements are going to allow Senkux to just back away and move out of the way because of the network-related issue that caused the problem. So we will be jumping back into the game. Senkux will be able to escape and move away. This tells me that as a team, Splyce were aware that the package was a thing, and probably why they paused, saying there is a threat of losing somebody, and they're going to get themselves set up. So we'll give you an update once we get back into the game. It should be very, very shortly. And Crepo...
That actually just happened. So there was a cocoon on top of Senkux, and there was a trash in flash hook range. That's why, obviously, it's very important that you need a network to step away from that cocoon. Interesting here to hear from Splyce, or from the guys from Unicorns on the desk. On why that lane stop happens. Kind of disagree with Steelback's point, but that's the beauty of bot lane matchups. Everybody always has an opinion of what wins 2v2. That's the point where I really hope we can get some coaches inside, what their take is on that 2v2 matchup, what the pivotal reason was, were they matching, because all we can do is obviously speculate. I really hope some of these teams, coaches, will share their opinion later on what the reasoning behind the potential lane swap was. Doesn't matter now though, let's get back into the late game. Just tune in after the pause. Elements, good early game, 1v1 composition, 1-2 split. Splyce, their strength is team fighting.
And Elements opted into a team fight that allowed Splyce to secure their first Baron of the game. And that allowed them to accelerate ahead, a 6,300 gold power play, in fact, from one of those Barons. And this has allowed Splyce to be in control. 36 minutes up, all of a sudden it's Splyce with the deep vision and teleport available and super minions pushing in the top lane.
Yeah, super minions pushing in. Splyce are looking to set up Baron vision here. They have to bear in mind though that they're usually the only variable right here is minions and Baron. But there is that potential 5th dragon coming up for Elements that Splyce desperately wants to secure. But it may be a catalyst for a team fight on their end too. So very interesting phase here, crucial late game phase, and you get so little practice for this, especially on the stage, because scrims very often deteriorate into what we call in Europe a clown fiesta. See teleport coming in here, flank here from Elements.
This time round, Steve does better, but Senkax has been able to flash away. All Splyce need is some cowball. Nisbet's looking for it, but he can't find a shockwave opportunity. Fate's call is used. Nisbet gets pulled back to Cobby and lobs back out. Nobody goes down, and everything is thrown in.
Thrashy fails the explosive cast. He knocks AK out of the fight instead of in. Elements going for the force play, the team fight, but they have to respect the team fight potential from Splyce. But they play it well. They keep everybody alive. And they must have felt cornered, because if Elements want to opt in for a team fight themselves 5v5, it means they're running out of options.
2-minute timer before Dragon number 5 spawns for Elements, if they want it. And with Baron up and alive, what cooldowns are available for Splyce? Only the shockwaves. A couple of flashes littered around on the side of Elements. Keeper's Verdict will be available for Steve shortly.
Yeah, they need Nisbeth to get his Unbreakable back up, because otherwise he can't peel. He will fall over or get shredded like a piece of paper. He needs that ultimate to zone and buy some time, but Elements, they also need some time here because they need to deal with that massive wave on the Nexus tower. Reaction from Splyce is to start the Baron.
The Winions working in favor of Splyce. That's one turret down. An inhibitor will be respawning fairly shortly. Splyce started to build up HP for Barons on the bottom left of your screen. 21 red stacks and a gigantic boot sends Nisbet away. That tanking, peeling power is removed. So Shockwave pulls Steve backwards for a few seconds longer. The heal comes up, faces the mountain, saves his life for a few seconds longer before Cobby takes him down. But crucially, Baron has been stopped.
Yeah, Elements buy some more time because this is about the third or fourth time that Nisbet has pulverized the floor under a repelling Elise. We can't point that out enough. That was big because it may have just been enough for Aka to flash in.
Aka does flash in, will not find the kill. He's caught out, finally gets one more tip, probably from the Gatling cannon. Baron once again has been stopped. Elements are playing with their lives. Rolls dashes forward. Dragon's up in 30 seconds. Baron is still alive and the inhibitors respawn.
Elements do the unthinkable from being Nexus Tower down 4v5 against a teamfight comp. They win that fight, they peel off, and they even get a kill. Aka with an aggressive move, something we're not used to seeing from him. At least not with success, but right now they're trapped in a pit.
Oh, definitely trapped for days. Spratel is sent back after being caught up by the explosive cost. Ika will get caught mid-pulverized as Rolls takes down Nisbet in the back line. Ika and Rolls looking for more. Wonderware will look to blow the barrel up, unable to do so. The minions plus super minions take out the inhibitor in the top lane once more. It's a 4-for-3 at the end of the day. And the tower's under pressure.
Guess what though? Dragon's live. 2 AD carries are heading that way. Trash is in the base right now, so Elements working with information. They're gonna get Aspect here. Question is how many members will get it. This is an interesting sequence of events here. Elements managed to hang on. Gilius should have been dead there. He should have been punished. He played it perfectly, but yeah, Nisbet, that pulverized, we kind of have to go back and look at it. Such a crucial, it's a little thing you don't really notice, but at this point in the game, there's some questionable decision making. Elements for going for that return Baron was so audacious. Perhaps is the word we're gonna use here, but it pays off. Raw's late game damage. Approaching those 5-6 items. Still hasn't found the money to upgrade his boots, but poor times.
But we'll talk about that later. For now, Aspect on 3 members. Gilius and Spratel were still down when it was secured, so Elements, based on members that truly, really want that, it is available. Sterex Gauge as well as the rapid fire cannon for Ika.
Alright, we need more Cobalt. We need it now.
Trashy gets caught by the death sentence. The hammer sends him away. That's a very good verdict. Fate's call temporarily buys time, but Nisbet opts into the retreat. Baron was already secured, and now Elements have Aspect plus Baron buff. They have stats for days.
Yeah, what an exciting finish here to that game, because it was a slow mid-game with some back and forth, but Elements with some newfound tenacity pulls that out. Gotta give props to them to go for these decisions, because after you make a couple questionable mid-game decisions, usually your reaction is to just, yeah, you choke, you freeze. You're like, okay, I don't want to be that guy that throws us the game with another bad call. And
Ika flashes a wall, stops Baron,
yeah,
and sets up the chain of events that give Element the proverbial lead.
That's so much pressure though, because I've been that guy that's made the bad call on Elements. It's not the one you want to be overall. And right now they have the Baron. They get the siege up here. No split though, so they're looking for poke with that Aspect.
A lot of damage. That was a decent dissonance onto Gilius. Oriana with a lot of ability power, over 600 right now. Gonna look to set up a shockwave. One good shockwave can still win Splyce a team fight despite all the buffs.
Yeah, Elements maybe a little rash in their approach. They just want to chip away. They have rapid fire cannons, so they have the siege, they have the range advantage. Look at the tower, just melt away. Obviously that tower burn is now doubled as well. Aspect infinitely stronger.
There's a gigantic wave pushing against Elements down bottom. Steve has a teleport available. Somebody will have to deal with that.
Oh, the game will maybe be over by the time that wave hits. Look at that split push. 4-1 initiated here by Elements. Split up Splyce. Don't give them, just watch the ball.
Senkex wants to, no, Senkex needs to connect for Splyce to have a chance. They were given a breath of life and an opportunity in the mid-game after Elements had such a convincing start. All of a sudden, Steve winds up the verdict.
Doesn't like that creep.
Does not indeed. It's sent backwards. Inhibitor number 1 dropped. That will even out the supers in the top lane. Somebody still needs to deal with somebody, the wave down bottom.
Yeah, and look at it. Few hints of smiles on the side of Elements, and very concerned faces on the side of Splyce here. Feel the tension in the studio. Rawls gets poked out, half HP, has to dash out. Momentum on the side of Splyce here, moving forward.
Let's have a look. Splyce know there's somebody dealing with that bottom wave. Steve will have to TP in if he wants a taste of the action. Recalls come out from Elements and they're going to set up to defend. But Steve didn't actually, I don't know if he reset that wave.
No, he has not, because he was threatened by the potential rotation. Obviously, not much vision in the jungle. He respects, he didn't want to pull a SOAS where he goes for the wave. Once Origin started losing the game at IEM, he overextended, he got caught, and it snowballed really the push that the opposing team was doing. So Splyce was ready to move on Steve. Steve recognized that, and he backed out. Didn't have to use flash or TP.
So clever plays then from Elements. They regain gold, the gold lead. However marginal it may be, Aspect has worn off, and Baron will be wearing off very shortly. So all of those additional stats that the buffs gave Elements have reset. In theory, giving Splyce the advantage in team fights again?
Yeah, but we're approaching the point almost where these AD carries hitting 5-6 items, and then it does equalize you kind of these late game champs, because Corki and Lucian singling out a single target, you can pop anything. At this point late game, positioning almost trumps champion strength.
Yeah, not a lot of tanks on either side either. Tanky stats.
I mean, you still have that shield. You have to calculate that shield from Orianna. It's something deceptively strong, because not only does he give on shield, I believe it's 30 magic resistance and MR2.
Plus 520 HP shield. Yeah.
Just get a couple of shields in these long drawn out teamfights. That's 1,000 health suddenly that you did not account for.
Yeah, and also some tanky stats being picked up for Gilius. HP from Rylai's, Randian's Omen plus Banshee, so deceptively tanky. Over 3,000 hit points. Splyce are grouped in the middle lane. Nisbet still playing in the front line. There's that shield we talked about. It is gigantic. Yeah. Everybody needs more cowball if you're a Splyce supporter.
1 minute to Dragon.
Oof, does Steve push this out and then peel back? Is that enough to liberate?
Elements right now, they use the pressure from the Dragon. They've conceded the vision, but you say like, you know what, we don't actually care about the Dragon control. You can have a Dragon. We rather use the threat of the 5th Dragon as an advantage and potentially out-rotate you. Let's see if Elements can stick to the strategy, which is split up the map. Maybe send somebody top 2. Just yield the Dragon.
Steve cancelled his recall, continues to push out that wave.
Elements losing control of the mid lane. They'll Splyce with the reaction and say like, okay, if you guys have the threat of the split push, we need to react immediately, force you back into the base. That's what they're doing. That's what Elements is reacting to. So both teams reacting to one another move.
Who will call their opponent's bluff first and commit to a decision? Steve recalled. Cocoon once again catches Nisbet, and the culling drops him very, very low. Fate's Call. That is an important ability. However, it's not been used aggressively once. Steve is teleporting in, decides to immediately run away. That became so, so close. Keeper's Verdict can be used, and Dragon has spawned. The dance is on. Let's find out if Elements will commit for a fight. Splyce, they've started off. They've got the Rend plus Smite advantage in Splyce Court. It's secured. Only the second line for Splyce. Steve has found Wonderwave, pins him against the wall briefly, and the hammer was already thrown. Now Nisbet's looking to re-engage, and the barrel comes out. Wonderwave's got Steve. Elements are falling apart. They're split up. They've lost Brattle, and Splyce might be winning the team fight. Gilius drops shortly thereafter, and Mr. Rawls is the last man standing. Elements committed to the fight, and Splyce should be able to finish.
Yeah, this is definitely has to be game. Wonderwave's gonna base, get full HP, come back to the lane, and that team fight crucial. Elements step into the trap. Yes, they knock out the support, but it actually gives him a flank opportunity when he re-enters the fight. Crucial in that fight is that Senkux was trapped in the Dragon Pit rather, but he flashed out, and then Elements kind of locked themselves into a cage with some very angry men. Took him down. Splyce, look at the finish.
Very, very angry men. Splyce, in the 47th minute, set themselves up on the last remaining Nexus turret. They burn it down thanks to the second dragon that allowed them to win. Yamato Cannon is celebrating as Splyce hold on to the safe spot in 7th. So great to hear the celebration. And ecstatic faces for Splyce.
Yeah, I mean, late game, they had a strong composition. In team fights, they had a strong composition, but Elements, they did show the counter. They exposed Splyce's weaknesses. The dagger was like 2 inches from the heart, but just not quite far enough. And that meant that eventually, Splyce could crawl back into this game. Long, hard-fought battle, 47 minutes, 10 seconds on the board.
Swings in control. I mean, if you looked at this game as if you took a screenshot of the game at 2 or 3 different points, Elements are definitely going to win. Splyce are definitely going to win.
Under
Elements are again going to win.
Under the assumption that team plays their style perfectly, but that's the thing about League. And that's why people like certain color casters, name starts with a K, ends up Repo. Why stop whining? Because people will not play perfect. That's what we have to assume. Unless your name is Rocks Tigers, SKT at times, there will be failures, and that leaves opportunities for the opposing team to punish. And Splyce, they found that punishment. They were down 5th Dragon and Baron, and they still held on.
So important for the standings. This win puts Elements at 5 victories, 10 losses, and it puts puts Splyce at 5 and 10, and it puts Elements at 4 and 11. So crucially, the head-to-head is tied, and with both of these teams with those incredibly challenging strengths of schedules, very difficult teams still to play in the next week and a half, Splyce may have bought themselves some breathing room to make it to Summer Split.
And just with the performance too, but I do hope that they adjust their draft just a little bit more early game oriented, because I love what they brought in terms of team fights. You can team fight with a little bit more early pressure lanes too. You don't have to go for the full late game.
Don't go full late game, but this time it happened and allowed Splyce to win. We're going to take a closer look at that game over at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, guys. I'd like to just jump into the final fight first, as we heard how important this win was for either of the teams, and then it comes down to one fight at Dragon. Let's get that up on your screen, and we can walk through it, because in that one, Elements had already had a 5th Dragon. They were about to get it again. They had already had a Baron. They were pushing in.
Yeah, and we had 2 players here on the left saying Elements were going to win, no matter what. And then the fight...
No, they said Splyce were going to win.
They said...
Don't put words in their mouth.
Definitely they said Elements were going to win this game. And this caster here said Splyce. Maybe it was the other way around, I'm not too sure. But let's see the fight. Chachi, what do you think about this Gangplank ulti coming in soon?
The Gangplank ulti was pretty good for zoning. I thought it was a good fight for Elements since they ulted away the Alistar, but the Gangplank ult denied a lot and their carries just couldn't attack.
Yeah, the Poppy was alone into Splyce, so the AD could attack the Poppy. Meanwhile, the Lucian was just running through the GP ult. So I feel the GP ult zoned them a lot, which won the fight for them.
And if we remove, GP ulti and everything, Kalista versus Lucian in the late game, who's strongest?
I think Lucian is stronger because you can burst very fast someone. Like you can literally 3-shot like Squishy, especially if you have Fire Cannon, i.e. BT. And Kalista is more about being good if the fight is longer, because you can stack your rent on a lot of people. So yeah, they both have their strengths in late.
Especially if you have that Doran's Blade at 40 minutes in and 1 pink ward, the Fisho. Tilted.
I mean, we see it so often. A team is like 5k gold ahead, about to set up Baron. They have 1 pink ward late game because you gotta have,
that AD is gonna win you the fight.
Or the 80 HP from the Doran's Blade. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's just pure tilt.
In any case, let's take a look at the standings, because each team only has 3 games left in the spring split. And the halfway point in week 8, G2 and H2K are sharing the #1 spot. Vitality is down to 3rd. Then we have Fnatic and OG, who have clinched the playoffs together with the UOL, so there are no spots left for playoffs, and that makes that match or that game just now of Splyce and that win so incredibly important. Guys, do you think that Splyce right now is the team with the best cards to get that 7th spot? And what do you think of the other contenders? Looking at a Giants, looking at a Rocket, looking at an Elements.
It looks like Splyce has the biggest chance, yes, but I don't know who they will play against, so it's actually hard to tell. But yeah, they look the best right now.
I do know, but it's not in my mind right now.
No? I mean, let's just look at the teams, right? You say Splyce is the best right now. Steelback, do you agree among the 4 teams?
I think on stage, yes, Splyce is the best right now. In scrims, I would say differently. I would say that Elements is better.
Huh.
All right.
Interesting, but they're not able to do it on stage, apparently.
Yeah, it seems like they're playing a bit more scared on stage, or it's probably the problem, yeah.
Do you agree with what the caster said, that sometimes the drafts that are coming out from Splyce might be the idea in the head of the coaches there, but then can you really expect a new team like that to do it on the Rift? Does that maybe have something to do with the fact that they don't look as confident?
I feel that Splyce is drafting pretty good, but like, for example, this game, they were invading a lot. They could, but they were like misplaying. They weren't sure when they could fight, so it was weird because they were in their jungle, but they were backing off, they were getting caught, being aggressive, so which was really weird. It seems like they have a plan, but they're really having trouble to actually do it.
Okay, and to answer your question, they're playing H2K, G2, and Vitality.
Okay.
I mean, that's 3 easy wins right there, I guess.
There we go.
I mean, this game was basically everything for Splyce then, because they shouldn't expect to win any other game. And now it's just about, can Elements win a game or not? I think they played Giants in the last week.
They
play us tomorrow.
Yeah, UOL Fnatic H2K, so.
So basically, Unicorns of Love can ruin everything for Elements.
I think they just want to win and get a better seeding in playoffs, you know?
Do you? Is it that important anyway, the playoffs? I mean,
Yeah,
Good to have.
I would say it is. Talking about those playoffs, obviously you guys have that spot locked in. We talked a little bit about what went wrong in the OG game before, but Chachi, you, as someone who has seen it all from the Unicorns, when you guys were inconsistent, then when you beat the odds and beat Fnatic twice, went to the playoffs, and then now, how far do you think you've come? What are the most notable changes to the team and the way you're playing for you in this split?
We have had a lot of jungler changes this season, which is a bit of a problem, yes, because we couldn't practice as much as we could have if we had one jungler consistently. But I feel like right now, the whole atmosphere that we are working in is more professional than before. And our schedule and our practice reflects that as well.
Can you give some examples of why you think that things are going to the next level professionally, maybe Steelback?
I think now, before I joined the team, we didn't have a schedule and we didn't have like when we solo queue, when we eat, and that kind of stuff. Now we have a schedule, like we wake up, we play one solo queue, then we eat, then we talk. It's like you know what to do, so you can work efficiently every day.
do you guys think Europe now this year, because you guys are obviously there among the top 6 teams, Unicorns of Love were the same last year coming into playoffs, both splits, and you played for Fnatic in Spring Split as well last year. Is the competition a lot tougher now? Because like we have, it seems, a lot of really, really good teams like Vitality and H2K and G2 up there. Or do you feel like it's kind of the same as last year?
I think the scene has developed for sure, especially now that I feel like even the lower teams can sometimes just upset the higher teams. Even if it didn't happen that much this split, every game like that is pretty close. Just take, for example, the Giants versus H2K match last week. It was very close for Giants to win.
I feel too that the team are very inconsistent. Like sometimes they play very good and sometimes they play way worse. Before I feel Fnatic was like the best, and now it's not like there is a team which is like really strong. It's more about there is this top 6 team which sometimes can lose even against the bottom teams. So that just show that every teams are really close actually.
I'm glad you bring up Fnatic. Obviously, we were looking a lot at them going to IEM. They did really good at IEM, even though they went in as the 5th team in Europe. Steelback, what's your opinion on Fnatic right now and how strong they are going into playoffs? Because, as you say, they still fall to other teams, and it's not like it's a clean performance all the time for them.
Yeah, I think Fnatic, well, they changed support very recently, so now they're probably working on a synergy bot, and they're having trouble with shot call too, I think. So they're actually working on it, and they looked good at IM. I think they actually found their way to play. The Spirit played Lee Sin, and Reckless played a really good Jhin, so they actually figure out, I feel, the draft when they were there, which really worked for them. But I feel that they're getting better, but they still have a lot to work on.
Now, you said synergy, and now you obviously got new support. You play with Hylissang now, who's been with Unicorns for basically the entire time they've been in the LCS. If you have to give some advice maybe for people out there who has to start building up synergy as a support and AD carry dual lane in solo queue, what kind of things would you look at first to be like some of the most important ones to build up?
Well, I feel to build up synergy with the support, you need to play a lot with him, to play a lot of duo queue every day, and talk about what you think is the best matchup, and you need to learn from him. And it's, of course, easier when you're friend with him, when you actually really close. I'm close to Hylissang, so it makes things easier to talk. And I feel, yeah, to build synergy, the main thing is to play a lot together and understand each other.
Well, that is crucial for one of the teams that you guys played today. Unfortunately, lost to OG. We saw FLICKR coming in from that team, and we had criticized them, rightfully so, a lot for their shot calling and the way things have been going synergy-wise. How big of an impact do you think it was that someone like FLICKR, who they made it to semifinals at Worlds with, stepped in mentally? Did you guys feel any of difference? Because you still almost won.
Not really. I think maybe they played a bit better than with Tristan Power, but I think the difference wasn't that big. It was rather us sitting back and just letting them do whatever they wanted.
How overall do you think Tristan has been doing, Power has been doing in that team?
I think he has been struggling a bit, and I felt like he doesn't really find his place right now. For example, in our team, we built a lot around him. We gave him the last pick most of the times, the counter pick. Even our whole team comp was quite a few times around him. And I'm not sure he has this in OG. So I think maybe there's still a bit of trust issue in him. And if they solve it, then he can be a good addition to them.
Yeah. One last thing about it, because I just think it's such an interesting situation. Obviously, they said they might want to swap out the two mids come summer split, and now because of Power being sick, they had to emergency sub in FLICKR. But I can only imagine for someone sitting at home, imagine you guys get sick and you can't play, and then they win a game like this. How do you think that mentally affects a player, Steelback?
Yeah, I think that, of course, sitting at home and watching his team win, well, he should be happy because they obviously won, but he probably want to play because that's what a player wants. You always want to play with your team. So yeah, I'm sure he's like kind of sad to not play, but he can see how FLICKR fits and he can learn to. That's the main thing, to have two different players, two different mid. You can help each other and make it work.
Yeah, it'll be the key to OG to see how they deal with this and nurture that relationship, of course. Enough about that. We're going to check in with you guys on Twitter, where we asked what pick would be the most contested on 6.4. And our tweet is from @Sherbinator, responded, "If we don't see Sivir, I'd be shocked." Points, of course, for that pun. But Sivir, we did see it. And from the most unlikely person, we thought it was forgiven.
Well, I mean, Sivir, if you just look at on a macro level, Sivir is a fantastic pick for these teams like H2K and even Vitality, most likely. A lot of focus on, pushing in lanes, having a lot of tempo in the game, and then forcing team fights when they're out of position. Steelback, do you think Sivir right now is a top tier pick, or do you think maybe she's a little bit under Kalista and Lucian and so on?
I think right now she's obviously under Kalista. Kalista is like the first, and then there might be Lucian and Sivir both on the same level. It depends the comp you want. But Sivir is definitely strong on lane because you can push very easily, and you have your ult to help your team, so you can build like right now there is Nautilus, Ramus, so which is really good with Sivir. So I see Sivir working now.
Do you think we're going to see a meta for Chachi, you as well now, seeing as you are a top laner? Because we have these tanks up in top lane like Ramus and so on. We talked about how hard it is for an AD carry to deal with Ramus. are we maybe going to see more Sivir as a utility AD carry, and then you have, your mid laner and your top laner dealing the damage, we can say, and then the AD carry doesn't really matter. She can't kill the tank because you buff up the rest of your team. Do you guys think we're going to see more of
Back
that?
to season 5. Ooh.
Yeah, basically.
The Sivir actually looks really good in this meta because you can just speed up your whole team, the tanks, and you can go in front. And you can generally ignore the other team's tanks. Let's say if you play Sivir into Rammus, you will most likely just ignore the Rammus, run past him, and try to attack the backline. And if you can successfully do that, it can work really good in the meta.
Are you excited for the return of the Sivir meta steal back?
Yeah, well, not really, because I really like playing aggressive AD.
Yeah.
But
We push the waves.
but if we need to play Sivir, I will play Sivir again. Yeah.
All right, we will see. Another person that could pick up Sivir, but I don't see it happening that soon, is G2's Emperor, and he did really well on the fantasy side of things today. You don't need to worry if you have him in your roster, because he was slowing down. No, that's not true. I read that wrong. He was not slowing down. He was doing really good.
Speeding up.
Yeah, he was speeding up.
And
he
he's
racked
still
up
my fantasy team, and he's still making me win games.
8 kills, 10 assists against Vitality, taking home 35.5 fantasy points for Emperor. Woo.
Yeah, and when you also have his support right next to him, the AD carry support synergy in terms of fantasy points, G2 always delivers.
All right. Well, we'll have to see if Emperor can keep it up tomorrow as Week 8 continues with G2 versus Giants. And Elements will face the UOL, and then it's Fnatic versus Vitality. Let's talk about those two, Fnatic versus Vitality and Elements versus the UOL. Obviously, you touched on it already. What you showed today and what we saw for Elements, that should be a fairly good one to take for you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I felt like Splyce kind of had the better draft today. So I feel fairly confident that we can have the better draft tomorrow as well against Elements. So it will just come down to our gameplay, and if we can actually make aggressive move this time and force Elements to react to us rather than us reacting to them.
And then Fnatic Vitality, I mean, we saw how they came back from IEM. Yeah, they won today versus Giants. Vitality, the fish show.
I want to hear your opinion on this one as well, but I think, yes, Fnatic looked very good at IEM. I still think they are behind Vitality, H2K, and G2.
UOL.
Question is if they're behind Unicorns of Love, or do you guys think maybe you guys are very even right now in terms of level?
I actually think that right now they discovered this pick on Spirit, which is Lee Sin, and I feel it's very strong. If you look very closely at what they picked lately, which helped them a lot, you can actually ban them out, I feel. So I think we're stronger than them right now.
All right, and a small Vitality versus Fnatic prediction.
Vitality's going to take that one. I think, as you just said, we're going to see target bans coming in against the likes of Lee Sin. Maybe you can even ban out a Jhin if you don't feel like you have a draft against it so far, because teams haven't really played a lot against Jhin yet. So I definitely expect Vitality to win it, even though they lost today against G2.
This is Chachi.
Yeah, I would probably say Vitality as well, because today's game, Fnatic versus Giants, I didn't feel like they were that dominant. It was only Fabiven winning the mid lane alone, and then they just snowballed out of that. And I don't see that happening against Vitality, so I'm not sure Fnatic can make the right rotations compared to them, or like just outplay them in general.
Still back.
Yeah, I feel that Vitality is stronger right now to the draft. They have a better champion pool, I feel, and they're better overall at rotations and as a team. So I would say that Vitality for tomorrow.
Okay, we'll see in that Vitality Fnatic matchup. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us, and good luck tomorrow and in the playoffs, of course.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for us to sign off here. Until next time, we'd like to call it a day. Obviously, we're thanking our guests that joined us here on the desk, and as well as to a thank you to all of you for tuning in. It's time that we sign off, I think. No problem. On behalf of everyone here covering the European League Championship Series, good night, good luck, have fun, and we will see you tomorrow.